Hey guys, quick note before we jump into this video. I wanted to apologize in advance for the crummy audio. My microphones had been giving me some trouble, but I didn't want to throw away the footage because it's hard to restart a never started horse. So we kept the footage and just did a voiceover on it. However, after these first two videos, we'll go back to a microphone. I upgraded my equipment, so we are good to go. I hope you guys will stick with us through these two videos and follow along on Nayla's journey. Hey guys, so this is Nayla's first training update, and if you guys are not familiar with this horse, this is a young quarter horse mare we recently got in for training. I did an introduction to her in my last video, so go ahead and check that out if you have a minute. She's very feely and very fearful in new environments and around new people. She knows how to lead, obviously, but that's about it. She hasn't been handled much other than that, and she's here to get started under saddle. So we will be doing a video series on our training progress, and this is the first video in that series. So these videos will be mostly uncut, unedited videos, unless there's, say, a 15-minute repetition of an exercise that is not necessary in there for you guys to get the point of the exercise or see where it's going or see the progress. Then I'll probably cut something like that out for the viewer's sake or to keep the duration of the video a little bit shorter. However, other than that, you guys are going to get to see the good, the bad, and the ugly. You will get to see our training process on a very skittish young horse. So let's get started. So the first exercise that I'm going to do here is to slap the ground with this string and to throw the string over her back in order to build her capacity for handling sounds and pressure. Because eventually I'm going to have to get on this horse, and I don't want something coming around the corner and freaking her out and that to be an escalating effect and she ends up bucking me off or something like that. So obviously we start with the baby steps, and this is one basic way to do that. And you can see right here, she stood for a moment, then she decided she couldn't handle it anymore. And what I'm doing right here, again, as a baby step, is to teach her, keep your nose on me. So there are times here she's keeping her nose on me, and I appreciate that. Would I like if her feet were still? Yes. But right now, that is not entirely necessary as long as she keeps her nose and her ears and her eyes focused on me. That is the main goal. There we go. Now she's starting to calm down. Again, I'll test her threshold. She's still pretty uncomfortable with that. So I'm just going to keep working on that. You see when her nose came off me and she started to trot around, I raised my hand up to stop her. Now notice that I give the horse enough space in the rope that she can move her feet. She has a little bit of liberty to move out so she doesn't end up feeling claustrophobic, but at the same time it's not long enough that she can run off and kick me in the face on her way out if she decides to do that. So here I'm going to continue to build, and usually I just strike the ground once or twice because I know that's all she can handle, and every once in a while I'll do it a few more times again to stretch her capacity for handling different things, for handling the pressure around her. And this is her first day with this exercise, so now I'm going to go to the other side again. I raise my hand up. There we go. Wait till she shuts down, and there she's licking. That's a good sign. I'm going to retreat for a moment and then start back at it again. You can see how every time the string comes over her back, then she flinches. And so I just want to do this again until she's completely comfortable with it, because right now I can't even touch this horse's body with my hand. I can touch her face, I can touch her neck, but she still flinches every time I go to touch her barrel. And so for me to get around her and get to her legs and be able to pick up her feet, that's going to be a while. So this stick and string helps a lot for that as an extension of my arm to be able to reach the parts of the horse where she's not comfortable with me being yet. There she's licking again. That's a good sign. So I spent a long time doing this exercise, obviously. I feel like it's very vital. There's something came around the corner and she freaked out a little bit. So I'm just going to raise my hand up, block her with my elbow so she doesn't run me over in the back, and then I'll go back to my exercise again. So it's very important while working with these young horses that you maintain a very relaxed and calm energy throughout the whole process. Often I'll be working with people in their colts or their spooky horses, and they have a tendency to let the horse's energy and fear rub off on them instead of the other way around. So stay calm, stay confident, and try to be that leader that your horse needs. Even when things do go wrong, make slow changes because you don't want to startle your horse even more by having a big reaction. Otherwise, you'll end up with somewhat of a ripple effect, and things can go downhill very quickly from there. Now I'm going to demonstrate here, and as I throw the string around this horse's legs, you see how big a reaction she had to that. But instead of making some big move in response to that reaction that she had, I'm going to go ahead and just stay calm and continue to make that move until she relaxes with it. If I were to push her away or start shaking that lead rope or add a bunch of energy to the situation, it's only going to cause her to worry more and to doubt me as a confident leader, and that's not what we want. So the reason this exercise is so important is because not only do I need to rub my hands all over her, be able to rub my hands all over her before I can move on to things like saddling, etc. But eventually she'll learn to look forward to this as a relaxation cue, and that's exactly what we want. So here I'm going to raise my hand up just to stabilize her and to keep her from running around behind me, and I'm just going to gently hold that stick on her till she stops her feet, and then I'm going to release. You can see she's licking there, and she's going to move off again. She's still a little uncomfortable. I'm going to raise my hand up till she stops her feet. That's what I'm looking for. And notice I don't ever try to get really tight on this horse and force her to stop her feet and stand there. I want her to be able to move her feet, but I also want her to make the decision to stop her feet on her own too. Allowing your horse to find the correct answer will solidify it in his mind so much faster than if you try to force it on him. There we go. That's what I'm looking for. She's really starting to relax there. That looks good. So again, the goal of this exercise is to teach your horse that the sooner he stops his feet, the sooner he finds release. And we're not trying to teach him that he can't be afraid of anything. We're trying to teach him how to handle the fear that he does deal with in a more constructive way. And the sooner you can get to your horse's feet, the sooner you're going to get him to start using the thinking side of his brain instead of the reactive side of his brain to deal with things on a regular basis. So now I'm going to go ahead and send her off to the right. And you saw how I raised my stick up and pushed that shoulder out to block her from cutting into me and cutting into the circle. Right now, I'm not going to ask for a whole lot of structure in this circle. She's still way too green for that. But anytime that hip pops in or that rib cage pops in toward the inside of the circle, I'm just going to raise that stick up and direct my energy toward her hip and ask her to move back out. Right now, I'm just trying to get this horse to be straight and to travel a little straighter so her nose isn't stuck to the outside. You'll see sometimes I gently bump on that rope and ask her nose to come back to the inside. And the purpose of this exercise is to get your horse to soften and relax. We don't want our horse to just be running around here like a bandit without thinking about what he's doing. Obviously, again, this horse is pretty green, but my job is to keep him as relaxed as possible. And one way that you could do that is to get him a little bit more physically soft and to start to control where those feet are going and what they're doing. Again, the sooner you get control of your horse's feet, the sooner you'll get to the thinking side of his brain. So before you can get to your horse's rib cage to soften, what you're going to need to do is to gain control of that hip. And the way you're going to do this is to get that inside hind foot to drive deep and cross underneath the horse. Right here, I'm going to shorten up my lead rope just a little bit, direct more energy at that hip, and wait till she crosses under. So notice I never have to touch my horse with this stick here. She is a very feely horse. If you do have a horse that's a little more dull and keeps cutting in or dropping that hip in towards you, then by all means feel free to tap it, put a little bit more pressure on it, and move it out. There we go. Notice how every time this horse gives me the steps I need, then I lower my energy, drop my stick, release the lead rope. There we go. Now eventually I would like to see that hip crossover in motion, but the most important thing right now is to get this horse to start thinking about slowing down when pressure is applied rather than squirting forward or running off. And so if she decides to stop her feet completely, that's completely fine with me. I'm going to allow her to take that moment, take a break. I understand that that is a partial correct answer, and then I'll go ahead and send her back off again and continue the exercise. Now you can see here, finally those feet are starting to slow down and the hip is starting to cross under. That nose came in toward me a little bit. I'm seeing everything that I want to see. I'm going to go ahead and ask her to disengage here and just let her rest a moment. I'm just going to wait her out here. I won't apply any additional pressure. There we go. She's licking and chewing. She understands what I was asking of her. That's excellent. So I'm going to let her sit here and regather just a moment before sending her back off to the right. Push that shoulder out. Make sure she doesn't cut in the circle. And you can see how much more relaxed she already is. She's starting to keep that nose tipped toward the inside a lot more. Her focus isn't off in the distance anywhere but in that circle. Her footwork is getting a lot better. And one thing that's very important to remember, as I've mentioned before, is not to add more energy to the situation than is necessary. And I've made this mistake personally in the past too many times to count. Because if you add too much energy to the situation and you get that horse really wound up and worried, you're going to spend at least double the time just trying to bring him back and get him to a calm, stable, emotional state again. Because here's the thing, worried horses don't learn. When you get a horse really worried and high on anxiety, he instinctively goes into survival mode, and all he can think about is taking care of himself. So it's very important that you keep horses as mentally and physically relaxed as possible while you're teaching them so that they can retain the information you're giving them. Many times I've seen people try to rush through these steps with their horses or force them, and I've made the mistake too in the past. And you may see a physical change take place, but when you put that horse in the stall the night and you get him out the next day, then he's actually more frazzled and worried than he was the day before because there was no mental connection made there. So that's where the saying, slow is fast, comes from. It's very important that you take the time you need, keep the horse as relaxed as possible so he can retain the information you're giving him. Otherwise, you're wasting your time and you're wasting his time. Alright, so what I'm going to go ahead and start working on now is the disengage at a standstill. And what I'm looking for is for that inside hind foot closer to me to cross under the horse and over the other hind foot. That was it. That was the step I was looking for. So I'm going to go ahead and rub her here, let her think about it a moment, then go back to work. Again, I'm waiting for that inside hind foot to cross under the horse and over the other hind foot. There we go. That was a step. And when I work on this, I work on one side at a time till I can solidify in the horse's mind what I want, and then I'll go ahead and work on the other side. There we go. Now this horse has a tendency to kind of suck back through the disengage. So what I'm going to do about that is to lead her forward every once in a while when I'm finished with the exercise to kind of get her into a neutral state of mind about it. If you had a horse that tended to trail forward in the front end or kind of walk around you while you were asking for the disengage, then you're going to want to do the opposite and back it up every time when you're finished with the hip yield. You'll notice that I spend a lot of time rubbing my horse down in between exercises with the stick. And not only is that because eventually I'm going to work up to being able to rub her all over with my hands, but she also needs to understand that the stick does not always mean she needs to move something or go somewhere. The only time she needs to move is if I specifically direct energy at a certain part of her body. Other than that, when I put my energy back in a neutral state, then I want her to understand she can stop her feet and relax. There we go. Again, I'm going to direct energy toward her hip. Ask her to step over. Very nice. She gave me a few steps that I really like. There we go. And then I'm going to go back to a neutral energy. Let her relax. So I'm really happy with the change I already see in this mare. Her energy is much more balanced and consistent. She's using her brain to work through things, and you can see she's a lot less goosey and reactive than she was even at the beginning of this session. Anyway, if you made it to the end of this video, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoy these videos, please be sure to subscribe to our channel and be on the lookout for Nayla's next video. We'll see you guys next week.